Hello.
So it's a Spock becomes human episode this week in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And if you haven't guessed, I'm talking about Season 2, Episode 5, Charades.
Charades.
And I'm not going to be talking about the charades aspect of this episode.
Charades is very important.
As always, I'm Al, this is the Geek in Review. And if you haven't seen this episode, I'm going to get straight into it. So it's a mixed Chapel Spock episode, and it opens with Chapel. So I guess your time has come, or take guess, for a good episode. And the Enterprise is on a survey near Vulcan investigating a mysterious ancient species that disappeared. And the crew's got some downtime while this is going on. So Chapel is still hoping to leave the Enterprise, and we get a montage scene with her preparing for her interview. And it's not the only one in this episode, I'm afraid to say.
How to speak like a Vulcan.
All right then, shall we?
But romance! But first, it's awkward. Because we've got to get to Spock, and as I said, it's a joint mixed episode between the two. So we get his daily log as well, and we get to see him go about his downtime, and we get an Enterprise reference about the smell of humans while cooking with Pike. And they really kill that joke in this episode, they just keep reusing it.
And they carry an unfortunate odor.
Anyway, the mission, they're sending a shuttle to look into this Kirkovian race, who, yep, it sounds like Kirk and Chekhov, they've not done a lot of thought on that. So just think about that. But there's a lot going on. Spock's in-laws are coming to visit along with his mother. He's not getting on with Sarek, probably because they couldn't get the same actor back. But maybe they're setting something up later on with Cyborg and saving him, but I doubt it. So, because they want a romance episode, Spock and Chapel are sent on the shuttle mission to locate the medically advanced species, because he's a scientist and she's a nurse, remember? Do you get it? And they find a mysterious rupture in space while doing this. So, bright light, big flash, then back on the ship and Spock's human. And this is a start of a sort of theme in this episode where they're just missing out scenes. And this happens later on, and I'm going to mention it, so don't worry. And they naturally assume it's someone behind this, not just the effects of the space-time rupture. But anyway, it's a reverse tuvix episode, really, kind of, sort of. So he's human, with his missus and her folks and his mum on the way, and he's also got Chapel to deal with. So, feelings.
How do you feel?
They try to solve the mystery of what's happened, and number one does do something this week and helps investigate that, and they just find some random alien tech left behind on the shuttle, and it turns out this is a communicator. Which, of course, works straight away, and they have what I'm going to call a very relaxed first contact, and this scene plays like a sort of phone call, like the way it's done, and it's all very customer servicey, like if you're phoning Apple or you're phoning your bank or something like that.
Hello. I am called Yellow. I am of Kirkov. You called me?
And this is another joke that they completely run into the ground in this episode.
Hello? Is anyone there?
I spoke to you earlier.
This is irregular. A complaint outside of the response period.
So are you getting it? Are you getting what's going on? And the aliens saved Chapel and Spock, resulting in this. So yeah, the entire scene was terrible. The explanation didn't work. I didn't like the jokey stuff that they were doing with the voice, and yeah, it's not great. But one thing I will say that is positive, when we do first see this human Spock, I did initially like Ethan Peck's portrayal of him. He did play it really well for about 3 minutes, and then of course it does get ruined by attempted comedy. So of course we now see the new human Spock go about his day, but obviously different because he's human. And they work out that the aliens have moved to another dimension to set up the best offshore customer service you'll ever hear.
Hello.
But I hated the way the rest of the Spock scenes here are. All this editing in the montages, it's weird, completely stop it, we don't need it. And all the comedy stuff as well with Spock didn't work, him threatening Sam Kirk, all that stuff, you know what I mean if I've seen the episode. And even La'an mentions the way he's behaving like a teenager, and that's exactly it.
What you're going through sounds a lot like being a human teenager.
And as soon as she says it in this episode, it's another thing that they just continuously run with. But it's also weird she's telling him how to deal with his emotions. He's Vulcan, or at least he was, and he knows better than anyone else on board how to do it. And this is another worrying sort of habit that they do in this episode where they teach Spock to be Spock. But what about Chapel? Well, she has survivor trauma from the shuttle accident that she doesn't remember and we didn't see for about 2 seconds before she has to go for her interview.
Survivor's guilt's easy to spot from the outside.
And she doesn't get the post and he's human, so they both hate Vulcans and get along. And what's he playing at here? He's got a fiancée on the way. And a mother on board. With Amanda on board, this is a great opportunity to give us some Pelia backstory because we know both characters are linked. This was set up all the way back in episode 1. So what do we find out in this episode? Well, nothing about Pelia, Lanthanites, Amanda, how they met, anything, because conveniently Pelia is not on the ship in this episode.
Pelia sends her regards. She regrets she can't be here, but...
So yeah, we got nothing new for a 4th week in a row, and we get more comedy with Spock in a hat trying to hide his lack of ears from his mother. But the end result, the dinner, is now going to be on the ship, so of course everyone can be involved in the Star Trek hijinks. And the whole scene where Amanda didn't realise something was up straight away, he's behaving like an idiot and a teenager, and is this really the direction you want to take Spock in when you could sort of do anything with him? He has to have a literal blowout before she realises something is up. But I did like that it was the same actress from Disco, so there's always that. So Amanda decides to teach him how to be human and how to lie to get round this obvious dinner that's coming. And again, really teaching Spock to lie is the lesson that you want here. And the rest of the crew, all humans, need to teach him how to be Vulcan. And yeah, at this point, I just thought, I'm done with this show.
All right then. Shall we? Problem?
Makes no sense whatsoever. They teach Spock how to be Spock, and that's it. This is everything that I don't want from Star Trek. Change of characters, bad writing, terrible humour, and again, no strange new worlds. I'm not even going to talk about the whole Charades dinner thing, but they come up with a plan to solve this by trying to recontact the aliens, because it needs to be for the story to work. And Spock's in-laws arrive along with his fiancée, and for some reason Pike's making dinner. And you know where all this is leading. Anyway, Chapel, Ortegas and Uhura, who finally get something to do this season, try and contact the aliens again. And they do it, but again, this is something that we don't see. They just sort of open their eyes and they're in the realm. But anyway, they make contact with the Kirkovians or Kirkovians or whatever they're called, and they ask them to untuvix Spock. And they do the whole customer service joke for about a solid 5 minutes, and I was briefly kidding earlier on when I said they done it, but like seriously, I couldn't believe they leant this hard into it and kept going. But Chapel explains friendships to the aliens and things work out again, and we don't see how they got the cure. She's just back on the ship and everything's back to normal. And I'll be honest, I'm really glad that's over. It was hard to get through this episode, and it'd be a real travesty if he didn't go this far and leave a like on the video. I did like the bit with the ears though. So if you haven't guessed, I hated this episode. I never really like when Star Trek does comedy. All the Deep Space Nine Ferengi stuff really didn't work for me either. And I really hated that this felt nothing like Trek. There was zero character progression as we know it, because Spock went back to normal because he has to, because we know what happens in the future. And this is like the 2nd or 3rd week this has happened, because Lan's time travel adventure meant nothing either. The crew teaching him how to be himself felt pointless, and the lessons that they teach him aren't really the stuff you need to learn. I keep saying it, but the writing in this show isn't great. And this is a new high, or I suppose low, depending on which way you want to look at it, for bad writing. None of the characters feel like they should be on Star Trek, and all these characters, apart from Ortegas and Lan, are new. Everyone else was an adapted or pre-existing Trek character. But the good news is they can only do the Spock human thing once, I hope. But these are just my thoughts on the episode. I've seen online that some people did really enjoy it. So if you did, I'm glad and I want to hear from you. Let me know what you enjoyed about the episodes in the comments below. And let me know if you hated the episode as well and you agree with me. It's all good. I mean, I say I hate the show, but I'm more just disappointed. But I really did hate this episode. It's by far the worst Strange New Worlds has given us. And Star Trek is capable of more than this. It should be aiming and delivering much higher than this, and Trek is supposed to be about more. And it felt like it was all the one big A plot, or there was sort of 3 sub-A plots. There was no real B plot going on, and we never really seen what anyone else got up to on their days off. I really feel let down by this season so far, and we're only halfway through, and we've still got the Gorn, more Kirk, as well as the Broken Circle, Spock's marriage, etc, etc to deal with. I just wonder where this is all going, and please stop taking us to Vulcan. Show us some Strange New Worlds. Now, if you've made it this far on the video, please leave a like, and if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be posting more videos all the time, including Foundation and still some Silo stuff, as well as Marvel. And as always, my name's Al, thanks for watching. Of course, Chapel Survivor got... Because of course, Chapel's Survivor... Because of course, Chapel's Survivor... Because of course, Chapel Survivor's guilt is back. Because of course, Chapel Survivor's guilt is back. Because of course, Chapel Survivor's guilt is back.